All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's been a while since we've done one of these cozy, in the robe still, early morning weekly wrap-ups. So talk about what I read, what I received, what I'm getting rid of, what I watched. A game I finished. I finished a game this week. Look at that. That never happens. I did read a good chunk, however. The consequences of my end of the year hedonism are also catching up with me, so I also have a stack. My hand is on the stack. It's genuinely a full-size book haul. So we're gonna talk about what I read first though. So what I read this past week, it is my full week of Christmas vacation this past week. I got a couple more days left, but last week was the full week. So I did manage to read a good chunk. I read at least a book a day. How many books did I read? I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I read 7 books. I watched a movie and I finished again. Look at that. I read a book a day. I could have read more than a book a day if I'd really pushed myself, but I'm kind of aware that I'm not hitting 500 this year because that would require me to read over 100 books in the next 3 days. So not that crazy. So what I read. The first book I read was Till Death Do Us Bard by Rose Black, and this one was a disappointment. So Till Death Do Us Bard, it follows this, it's a very D&D fantasy inspired kind of situation. It follows this old hero, a fighter, a barbarian perhaps, who has settled down and married a bard. However, his bard lover has just gotten, he thinks, kidnapped. He's disappeared. So he has to go chase him down. And this was just, it was so shallow. And part of this was my fault for reading this immediately after reading The Poppy War. Like, The Poppy War was the last book I finished the week before this week, and then I read this one, and they're both fantasies, and I'm like, that was a bad idea. That was a bad idea, because The Poppy War was amazing, and this was not. Because it felt so shallow a lot of the time, and the characters were shallow, and there were some things that I was vaguely interested in, but none of it was explored at all. None of it was given the time that it deserved. This is very short. This is it's like 350 pages long, and it tries to do so much, and it just doesn't work. So overall, I did give it 2 out of 5 stars. And that was the first book I read last week. After that, I read another favorite though. So I don't know what it is about these last couple weeks of December, but this is my second one that has usurped and messed up my top 10 of the year, which was honestly pretty weak this year. But I read Icarus by K. Ingram, and this is not one that I was expecting to usurp a spot in my top 10 because I did not like The Weight of the Stars, but this one was very fun. Icarus is a very, very allegory heavy young adult book about this boy named Icarus who he has been trained his whole life by his father to be an art thief, and the main person he steals from is this guy who his father has this big grudge against. However, one day he goes in there and he finds that this guy has a teenage son, and his teenage son is named Helios, and so, you know, Icarus, he's flying too close to the sun, all that fun stuff. It's very allegory heavy. It really is, and I really enjoyed it. I really, like, I drank it up. I thought it was really fun. Through it all, also, like, Icarus has all these friends at school, and they're very fun, and I really enjoyed it. Like, a lot of the issues I had with The Way of the Stars weren't really an issue here. I don't know. Everything, it was beautifully written. I really, really enjoyed it. Honestly, this is the Rainbow Crate cover. The original cover is like this. They put them both in there, which I think is kind of fun. But no, I really, 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 really enjoyed this one. It was definitely lots of, like, intense abuse in this one. But no, it was beautiful and wonderful, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. All right. After that, I read the second volume of Horimiya by Hiro and Daisuke Hagiwara. So Horimiya is a shoujo manga series about this this unlikely couple. We've got the girl who's very, very popular in her class, and she's very, very well known, well loved, and then a boy who's very, seems kind of melancholy and creepy, basically. And then they, you know, fall in love. It's very cute. I honestly, I like the anime more. So I have watched like the first 10 episodes of the anime, which is farther than this book. And I like it more than I like the manga. I do intend on continuing on with the manga just because, I mean, mangas generally last longer than animes. And I do really love the story. Art style is very cute. I think that, I mean, there's so far it's been pretty to the T of the anime and the manga have been very similar. But I do want to keep going just because I know that that's not always the case. I know things can change, and I do want to experience the story in its fullness, because it is a very cute story. It's very good. I found as I've been getting older that I love the cute stuff. I do. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. All right. Then I reread a Stephen King book, and this is actually only the second time I've read this book. I read this right when it came out in 2014. It was my favorite book of the year in 2014. I had never read it since. So I reread Revival. I really enjoyed it. I do really understand why I loved it so much as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old. So Revival is the story of this kid, and when he is very young, a new preacher comes to their town, to their small Maine town. And everybody loves this preacher, his pretty wife. And this preacher is very intent on the idea of electricity. He's very curious, and he really has such a lust for knowledge in that area. But that kind of takes a dark turn when his wife and son are killed in a freak accident. And it's just the lust for knowledge that the preacher has is, he's not really a villain, like he kind of is, but it's more of a Frankenstein situation than anything. And there's a lot of talking and questioning about religion, and I do understand why as a 17-year-old this appealed to me so much. I never believed in anything, even as a young child. I remember just sitting in church being like, whatever. But growing up in rural North Dakota, it is very much a standard part of almost everybody's life. And so it was interesting to read, and there was a lot in here. This does definitely feel very much like 2010's King. It has a definite feeling to it. It's not anything near the classics, but it is a fun one, and I did really enjoy reading it. I enjoyed the reread. I did still give it 5 out of 5 stars. It's a fun time. All right, then I read a book that was kind of disappointing, and that is Chasing Pacquiao by Rod Polito, which is about this young gay Filipino kid who goes to a really rough school, and he knows that if he comes out, it's over. He'll be murdered, basically. He'll be hurt badly. But he's got a boyfriend who is a whole lot better off economically, who is homeschooled, and he's pressuring him to come out. And eventually, something happens where he is outed, and he just gets physically assaulted several times. And here's the thing. Polito forgot about the emotional impacts of literally anything that happened in this book. And when he didn't forget about them, he didn't do them very well. I would compare this to something like Adam Silvera's books, particularly his earlier works like More Happy Than Not. But Adam Silvera and More Happy Than Not, granted, it's been a couple years since I've read More Happy Than Not, but I remember there being some emotional impact behind the assaults. This one, there wasn't really. He just, genuinely, this is 250-page book. I'm pretty sure every 50 pages he got beat up. And he just walked it off. He just walked it off. He got stabbed. Just walked it off. And that was my main issue with this, was that it really, the emotional impact and the emotions behind it were never addressed. And currently, what I'm reading is Lost by Jackie Morse Kessler, which is has nothing to do with the gay thing, but it is about a young man who is, the Riders of the Apocalypse. He is slated to become pestilence, and he's just this bullied kid. And it is so in his head, and it is so emotional that while reading, I'm like, yeah, this is what I wanted from Chasing Pacquiao. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't a bad book, and I can see where it will definitely be very useful to a lot of people in a lot of ways, but I think that Polito neglected a lot with that. So there's that. Then I finished a game. I've only finished 3 games in 2024. And here's my thing with games. I like a game that's more actually just like a book. I like it to have a story, beginning to end. And I also like dating sims. So I played Dramatical Murder. And for those of you who were on Tumblr in 2016, this will be familiar to you, but Dramatical Murder is the story of, it's like a dystopian, futuristic world where we've got these little animals that are all mates and they have all your stuff in it. And we follow Aoba, who works in like a tech repair shop. He's been getting these really bad headaches, and also his hair has extra nerve endings, which is a weird thing that never really gets explained. He lives with his grandmother. He's got this best friend who is a hairdresser, and you know, he's just living life, but things are happening. Like, there are lots of gangs. It's Japan and it's a dystopian universe, so there are lots of gangs, and a lot of these gangs are disappearing. And the main plot really kicks off when the leader of a gang that's very close to Aoba, Mizuki, who is a tattoo artist, gets kidnapped. He disappears. That's kind of where it all kind of really kicks off. When we meet other characters, you got Noah's, who was my favorite, who keeps trying to get Aoba to play this battling game with him, which is also a big thing in there, but my route didn't take me down that one. Damn it. I wanted Noah's, but I didn't get him. And then there's Mink, who is this like ex-con who shows up and he's real creepy, and I avoided that route real fast. And there's also this weird guy named Clear, who just kind of falls out of the sky one day. And I spent a lot of time trying to get away, as far away from Clear as possible. There aren't a ton of choices you can make here in this game. I got Kojaku's good end, which is better than Kojaku's bad end. Kojaku was probably my second choice in general. I am a sucker for the childhood friends thing, but Noah is just, aesthetically, he was my favorite. And I don't, yeah. I guess it was probably my favorite game I played this year. Again, I only played 3. But yeah, and I don't know. I'm the kind of person where, in the dating scene especially, I'm not going to go back and get all, I'm not a trophy hunter. I'm not going to try and get all the achievements. I got the credits. I'm done. You know, I'm done. But there's that. I did play it. Then I read another book. I read Shattering Glass by Gail Giles, which is a kind of Chocolate War-esque book. It follows this group of people in this school, and they're all very rich. The main character reminded me a little bit of Brady Snells, I'm not gonna lie. Even with like the weird sexuality thing going on there. But then also he was also like molested by a camp counselor when he was young. And that was never brought up again. So there was that. But basically there's a new kid in school, and he's an Archie Costello of the group. He kind of likes to play games, and he decides, you know what, I'm gonna make this fat loser the most popular kid in school. And he does, and then the fat loser has his own agenda, and they kill him with a baseball bat. So there's that. It was interesting. I did very much enjoy it. I'm making fun of it a little bit, but I did really enjoy it. It does have that kind of older YA feel. It's from 2002. We've got just so much of it felt very 90s, you know, and we've got, it feels a little bit more important. The text feels more important. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a fun time. It had a lot of tropes of the period, like the main character, he's very rich and his dad wants him to be a doctor. But he's like, no, I just want to write. I want to be a creative writer, which also reminded me of Brady Snells. Okay, this just felt like Brady Snells fan fiction. I'm not gonna lie. Except for, and then they killed a guy. This girl's trying to be Ellis. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. That's the bad thing about when you get into people like Brady Snells, is that then you are very, everything reminds you of him. Anyway, I watched The Pit. Oh boy, did I watch The Pit. This came out in like the 80s, I want to say. 1981, there it is. So The Pit. The Pit follows this kid named Jamie, and he's a weirdo, and none of his classmates like him, and they're very harsh, but then again, he's also a creep. So it's like, what happened before this movie that made them this harsh, you know? And anyway, he finds this big pit in the forest that are full of these little creatures, and he finds out that they eat meat. And so after spending all the money he can find on stuff from the butcher, he starts just throwing people in there. It's so funny. It is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous movie. It's so funny. It's from 1981. It is also Canadian, and the Canadians are freaks. Canadian movies are weird. But because it's so early 80s, it does feel very much like a 70s exploitation situation. And it was a lot of fun. Man, like so much of this was like not explained, and just the pit. Oh man, I love the pit. I think I gave it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd. Like I fuck with the pit. Okay, it was very fun. Right, and the final book I read last week was Edo Volume 1 by Amano Jaku, which is the first volume in a manga series. This is our art style. This is like a science fiction, dystopian, action kind of manga series, which I wasn't really expecting to like, because I'm not really that big into action manga anymore. I was when I was in like high school, but nowadays I like a little bit softer, and I just feel like the medium doesn't do action as well. Like I just can't do it anymore. But this was very, very good, like to the point where I am gonna continue on with the series. This follows this like futuristic Japan, and we're talking like it's gotten very, very crowded. There's a lot of immigrants, and there's a lot of like hate boiling underneath everybody. And so we follow this 19-year-old girl, and she is like a job hopper. She's chronically unemployed, and she ends up saving this little kid from getting run over by a bus. And then somebody shoots at him, and she's like, what the hell's going on with this little kid? And this little kid can turn into a plant. Because there's like this facility who was making these human plant hybrid things, and it's so fun. It's really interesting. It's really fun. I really enjoyed it, and I am very much interested to see what happens next. So this right here is what I read and watched. Talk about what I'm keeping. Obviously, I'm keeping the pit. I only ever really get rid of movies like at the end of the year. So we're keeping the pit. I gotta go organize that. I'm gonna get rid of Till Death Do Us Part. I don't need to keep this around. It wasn't very good, so that can go here. I am keeping Icarus because I loved it a lot, and it's one of my favorites of the year. I'm keeping Horimiya. I'm gonna get rid of Revival. I do have a hardcover, so I don't need that. Getting rid of Chasing Pacquiao. I'm getting rid of Shattering Glass, and then I am also keeping Edo Volume 1. So out of those, this is what I'm keeping. And this is what I'm getting rid of. I think all of these are going to my mom's classroom. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, yeah, no, all of these are going to my mom's classroom. So let's talk about what I received. I got a stack here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I got 16 books here. So that's great. We got a lot of fantasy here. I've been in a bit of a fantasy vibe recently. I don't know what it is. I've just been really into fantasy recently. It might be the seasons. I've never really been a mood reader. I just kind of read whatever I tell myself to read, you know. But we got a lot of fantasy here. So the first book I have here is Mistress of Lies by K.M. Enright. And this is a villainous heroine, a seductive world of power, politics, and murder. Ooh, this is a vampire one. I like vampires. I like a vampire. I loved Empire of the Vampire. That was really fun. So I'm excited to read this. I didn't know it was vampires. You might ask, oh, why the fuck did you buy that? I just got a list, man. And then I have The Bitter End by Alexa Dunn. I also really love winter horror. I think it's part of growing up in North Dakota. But if there's a winter setting, I'm like, it's automatically 7 times more scary to me. And this, I believe we follow a group of friends who go skiing. They go up a mountain, and not all of them will make it through this storm alive. I've never read anything by Alexa Dunn. I did used to watch her YouTube videos, and I found her a little bit pretentious, but we'll see if she's any good. After that, we got a thriller. That is The Quiet Tenant by Clémence Michelon, which gives me Angelo Castro vibes. Is that his name? That guy who kept the people, people in their, there's been a lot of guys who keep women in their backyards, actually. But no, this is about a guy who keeps a woman in his backyard. That's that. I got a couple of classics. One of these I have read before. I had to read it for college, but I haven't read it since, and I got rid of my copy. The other one I never had to read for college, but I'm a masochist, I guess. So the first one, Vanity Fair. I have read Vanity Fair. It is, at this point, it is the only, like, pre-1900s British novel that I have completely enjoyed. I'm not a huge fan of the Brits, so we're gonna see if I actually do completely enjoy Vanity Fair, or if I was just having Stockholm Syndrome, because I remember sitting in the business office, because I had work study there, and just sometimes my job was just wait for the phone to ring. And so I would sit there for 2 hours and I would just power my way through Vanity Fair. And so this was my only companion through those long, cold hours. So we'll see if I actually did like it. The one that I didn't have to read. So I read other stuff by this guy. I read short stories. I read a smaller novel by him. But I never had to read Ulysses. And I guess I'm going to read Ulysses now. So there's that. All right. After that, we've got this. This kind of goes with last week's, like, emo thing. It's Not a Phase, which is the ultimate emo activity book, and I just want to tell you to shut up, so put that right there. All right, we got another fantasy here again. I think this is like a dark fantasy situation. It says romantasy. It also says bloodthirsty, so I feel like this is more vampires. But this is Castle of the Curse by Romina Garber. Garber sounds familiar. I don't know, but I got this. Then I got another New Yorker. This is the December 23rd one. This one is like not all, but there's a lot of like comics and fun stuff in here. So should not be too bad. Then we've got a literary journal that I submitted to. I didn't get in, but they did send me a copy of the journal anyway, which is very nice of them, which is the Tusculum Review. This is the 20th volume. For 2024. It is so nicely put together. Look at this art. I'm excited about this. I really like when they do that, because there have been a couple journals that I've submitted to that I didn't get in, but they sent me a copy anyway, which I enjoy. Especially if it's like a journal that has like a submission fee, that I feel like I'm getting something for that $3 or $20, whatever the hell it is. All right, then I got my December Rainbow Crate, and both of them were special editions, and neither of them were just a special cover like Icarus. This was just a special cover. It was not a special edition. These ones are both special editions. I'm so excited. So I have a Queer and Cozy Winter, which is a set of short stories. This is actually put out by Rainbow Crate. They, selected the stories and everything. I recognize Ben Alderson. That is about the only name I recognize, which is kind of fun, but this is so pretty. We've got end papers. We've got this. It's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. I love the Rainbow Crate special editions. I know that Rainbow Crate, they used to do like a regular book box where they have like goodies, but then they switched over to just having really fancy editions, and I like that a lot more. I'm not gonna lie. I think it was a great idea. And then the other one was Snow Boys by Simon Doyle, which is, I believe he is Irish. Yeah, he's Irish, the author is. So this is kind of situation there. Again, end papers, beautiful. I don't really know what this is about. That's okay. I don't need to. It's gonna be cute. All right, I have some poetry. I have the 8th volume of Killing Stockings, so I do have the entire series now, and I'm pretty sure there's only 8. Dear God, let there only be 8. I'm pretty sure there's only 8. True Crime by Samantha Kolsnick. Yeah, that's about right. Which I believe is it says splatterpunk, but I guarantee you it's extreme horror, because there is a difference. And I will fight you on that one. The 2nd volume of Go Ghost. I really like the 1st volume. It was one I got from Hansama. I have since canceled Hansama, but I did get some good ones from there, and Ghost was one of them. We've got The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is very cute looking. I've heard a lot of good things about it. It's got spray pages. I'm excited. And finally, A Vile Season by David Ferraro, which is, he wrote one about werewolves in Alchemy of Moonlight, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't realize it was him, and I compared this to him, and it was him. But this is vampires, so I'm excited. So yeah, this is what I received. Read. That is all. I'll talk to you later. And goodbye.